In this section, we're going to cover some of the basics of setting up a project for Corona. Now that we're creating a full game and not just a single file to learn code, we need to start putting our code out into separate files instead of just having it all in one file. So the first thing that we did is we created this set of requires, which actually adds files to the code base. So you'll see here we have multiple files that are added, and in the final project folder there is a file with each one of those names, and these files each serve a specific purpose for the project. So the player is the player file, the game track is the level, background and foreground are the art, and then the title screen is this game over screen. And then lastly, the utilities file is just an extra file of some code functions that we needed in order to make this work properly. So these are just some basic requirements to spread your code out into multiple files, make it a lot cleaner and easier to see, and to work with multiple files at once. The other thing that we did here is we added the widget library, and we set our widget theme to iOS. So see here the buttons are the iOS themed buttons, and that's because of this theme set that we used in the beginning. Now you could change this to Android, to iOS 7. If you really wanted to, you could even make your own widget theme, which we will not be covering in this section. The next thing that we have here is the config file. So you have a config.lua file in your final project. We've had this file in a lot of the previous chapters, but we haven't actually really used it or looked into it. What we're doing here is we're setting a forced width and height to the screen of 640 and 960, and we have the screen zooming to that size no matter what object you use. So we'll see here if we switch to a different device, we still have the same screen size stretched to that space regardless of what we select. So that's the basics for our current config file. Now there's a lot of other items that you can add to the config file, but for our project that's all we really need to make this game function. The other thing that we did here in the beginning is we created some of our default variables. So these are variables we need for this game to function, and we're creating them here just with basic default values. So we have the length of the game, so this is how long it runs. Right now it's 20 seconds. We set the score, and we set it to 0 to start, and we set our high score to 0 as well. Now if we did have the ability to actually save your high score, this would be loading from a save file, but right now we're just starting it out as 0. We're also telling the game to start as inactive, so it doesn't immediately start the game. It starts out in inactive and it activates as you play. So then lastly, we have this load function. This load function loads each object that we need into the game, and then it actually runs the new game function which starts the game. So you'll see this is the function itself, but it's actually not run until the very last line in our main file. So this actually calls this function, and this function then creates our background, creates our level, creates our player, creates our foreground, and then starts the new game. So this load function creates all the objects we need except for the title screen, this pop-up, which is made once the game level ends. So this is the basic load function. Now this is a very clean way of creating a load function where we're creating an instance of each type of object that we need, rather than having them all just be in this code file. Each one is called from its various files here in their individual files. So that is our load function. In the next section, we're going to go through each one of these constructors and how they actually create the objects that we need for this project.